please. This is tedious. Okay. Suppose a company manufactures robotic exoskeleton invention with a fixed monthly cost of $1 million and $5,000 to produce each robotic system. Find the cost function of producing X robotic systems. What would the cost function be? It's a fixed cost of $1 million and $5,000 to produce each system. So it'd be what? Don't think too hard. $1 million fixed cost plus 5,000 per thing. So it's not that bad. We did this in my survey of Cal class I taught last year, or average cost. How do y'all find your average grades? If you have 4 tests in a class, how do you find your average grade or average test score? Add them up and divide by 4, right? Divide by the number of tests you have. So the average cost function, which we do denote as C bar, you take your total and you divide it by what? How many you have. This is a trick question. How many robotic systems are we producing? X. We don't really know. So you divide it by X. Basically, the moral of the story is, like if you have 4, if you're producing 4 of them, then you divide by 4. If you had 4 tests, you divide by 4. If you had 8 tests, you divide by 8. If you did 8 systems, you divide by 8. So you just divide it by X. H is divided by X. Oh gosh. This is actually not the worst. But I'm going to definitely be lazy here. Find and interpret C bar of 1,000, C bar of 10,000, and C bar of 100,000. How do I find those? What do I do? Plug them in. Oh man, this is going to be tedious. Plus 5,000 times 1,000 divided by 1,000. Now I've got to interpret these. This is a lot of writing. It's not that hard. I could teach this to less smarter people than you all, but it is a little tedious. You're just plugging in X. I'm writing this out to see I'll get my hand out of the way. Did I put enough zeros there? Nope. 1,000,000. Is that 100,000? Divided by 100,000. Okay. I'm going to go to that math frac thing. I would do it in the y equals, but those are high values. Math frac 100 or 1,000,000 3 plus 5,000 times 1,000. There's the first one. There's the second one. 100,000. There's the third one. So I just plugged them in. By the way, the more of these things you produce, what does that say about the average cost it takes to produce them? It decreases, right? So basically, kind of real world thing, like that's why your big companies can charge less because they're mass producing. When you mass produce something, it's going to cost less per item because these fixed costs, these fixed costs are kind of being divided among more items. So business people in here, that's why you're kind of your mom and pop shop. Sometimes it's harder for them to stay competitive because they don't produce as much, and so do I want to interpret? I'm not going to interpret all these. Unless you want me to. So let the average cost of producing 1,000 robotic systems is $6,000 per system. That's what that means. You could do that. The average cost of producing 10,000 robotic systems is $5,100 per system. The average cost of producing 100,000 is $5,010 per system. So you're just kind of repeating that process. I'll write it down, but don't feel like you have to write it down. Cost of producing 10,000 is 5,100 per system. So don't feel like you have to write this down because it's just the same type of thing. Producing 100,000 systems is $5,010 per system. What's the horizontal asymptote? Okay, so we'll talk about that. So C bar of X equals, what do we know? Which one's got a higher power, top or bottom, or is it a tie? About the exponents. Which one's higher power, top or bottom, or is it a tie? It's a tie, right? And so what do? You do the leading coefficient. Now, it's not a million. It's this right here. So what's in front of the variable? So it's a tie. You do that divided by that. So it would be y equals 5,000 divided by 1. So 5,000. That's your all right, here's how I would interpret this. As you produce more robotic systems, the average cost will approach $5,000. So basically, as you produce more and more and more of these, if you produce 1,000,000 of them, like as you could, it's going to basically get closer and closer to 5,000. Never reach 5,000 exactly, but that'll be your cost per system.